Hey, what's good, everybody? This is Majin I want to talk about what I hope to see in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So I hear in this game that every Pokemon from every generation past will be available in this game, plus the new Pokemon that they plan on putting in this game. So basically, I want to talk about, first thing I want to talk about is the starter Pokemon, the starter triangles. Now, the starters to me, they've been kind of like been on a, I guess, an up and down phase. You know, you had the first generation, and whenever the first generation, I was one of those people who chose Charmander. You know, I was like, okay, yeah, I do want a fire breathing dragon on my squad, so I was like, you know what, fuck it, I stuck with Charmander. I was one of those people who picked him, but I think it's safe to say now that Charizard is very played out. He's very overrated, so I pretty much retired from using Charizard. I kind of hung up the towel with him. So I won't be using him anymore. I don't even use him on the team I'm using right now on my Alpha Sapphire. But one thing about the starters that I hope to see is better dual types or just go straight single types. On Gen 2, we was the only one that we had all single types. But in this one, if we're gonna go dual types, what I hope to see, and you should watch this guy's video. His name is PokeMEN. He talked about this. I'll put a link in his description in the box below. One thing I hope to see is this water dragon dual type. I don't think we've had a water dragon dual type, and I think the design of that Pokemon would be really cool if they go water dragon. I think I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Let me correct myself. I think the water dragon type we have had is, I think, Kingdra. I'm not sure. I think it is Kingdra. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Also, have a grass fairy type because you have to have a fairy in order to, knock down that dragon. And as far as the fire one, I would say go fire steel or fire poison. That way it can knock down the fairy grass. I think since fairy is weak against steel and poison, I think fire steel would be the best. We only had one fire steel Pokemon, so I think fire steel would be a good dual type. I don't think fire poison would be necessarily a good dual type. It would have too many weaknesses with psychic and ground. So I think fire steel would be our best bet. Another thing that I really hope to see is more single type Pokemon. I know I just kind of contradicted myself with the whole better dual types on the starters, but what I mean is more single type as in non-starters and in non-legendaries. I think dual types we've seen enough as far as catchable Pokemon, but I'm really interested in seeing a little bit more single types. Reason being is because they give better competition when you have when you have more single types. Also, I think we need better designs. Now, I understand that when it comes to Pokemon, they kind of keep it family friendly. They don't want to go, too hardcore with the designs. They want to keep it everything family friendly, everything kid friendly. So I understand that they want to keep everything, not too vicious looking and not, too like, I guess too monstery looking, not kind of like Monster Hunter type stuff, but they want to keep everything family friendly and everything cartoon friendly. So I understand that, but I still think we need some way better designs. Take their inspiration from more real life animals or something like that, or fantasy creatures. Another thing I really hope to see, and this is my biggest gripe when it comes to Pokemon, more interesting legendaries. I make this argument all the time. I stand by this. In my opinion, I still believe Mewtwo is hands down the best legendary Pokemon. And not to mention, he's also the more interesting. And him and Mew are pretty much like in my top list of legendaries. Mewtwo and Mew, next to Lugia and Ho-Oh, are pretty much like my favorite legendaries. Their designs are cool, and not to mention Mewtwo has the best origin story. Everything after them, I wasn't really interested in. To me, they're just I don't understand why legendary Pokemon have to be based off deities. Like, I don't understand, like, why do they have to be gods? Like, and I know Arceus, he's like represented as, the creator of the Pokemon universe. But in my opinion, he's still kind of uninteresting because of the fact that he's a god. Mewtwo, he's so interesting because he's not a god. He was created by man. He was a clone, and in a sense, he does not even know what he is. That's what makes him so cool. Now I know there's gonna be people who say, "Oh well, Arceus has better stats," or I don't know, Dialga has better stats, or this legendary from this generation has better stats than Mewtwo," and you might be right. But me personally, I still think Mewtwo is the coolest legendary Pokemon of them all. Also, what I would like to see is a more challenging human villain. They don't necessarily have to be Team Aqua, Team Magma, or Team Rocket. Based on those teams, just give us a more challenging human with a better motivated story. Every human villain that we've had is a little bit uninteresting, and then they kind of come and go like really fast. They don't really stick around. Give us someone that's willing to challenge us. And also give us a cooler rival. I think the rivals, they really kind of dumbed them down, and they really kind of just gave them like Red in the first generation, how he was kind of cocky and hardcore, or the I don't remember the other guy's name in Gen 2, how he was kind of like he stole the starters. Give us another hardcore villain. I mean, not a hardcore villain. Give us another hardcore rival who's not afraid to step over that line. And also, I think what we need is an overall great story. Just something that will keep us occupied in the Pokemon game while we're playing. I think all the stories they've been all right, but they've been kind of just the same in a way. I think the only one that really has stepped out of that was maybe Pokemon X and Y. Those are probably the most interesting out of as far as stories. Those are probably the most interesting out of them all. But I really hope to see that. I'm really hoping that they do more better dual type starters. I really want them to go Water Dragon, because we haven't really seen a cool Water Dragon besides Kingdra. I think if they do a Water Dragon, go with a really badass design. Whenever I did my starters, my first in Gen 1 I used Charmander a lot, and then I started shifting more towards Bulbasaur. And after that in Gen 2, I went with Totodile. He was pretty much my first water starter Pokemon, and I really liked him a lot, especially teaching him moves like Dynamic Punch and Focus Blast. Then after in Gen 3, I went with Trico. He was grass because I liked his speed and his design. And then in Gen 4, I went with Turtwig, who is my overall favorite starter. I love Turtwig. I love his designs, I love his moves, and I love his dual type grass ground. I mean, it can't get no better than that. After him, I went with Snivy, and he was okay. He wasn't too bad. He was all right. And then after that, in the last gen we recently had, I went with Chespin and Froakie. So I was kind of able to do two starters at the same time. So I didn't really like Chespin. His design was terrible. I hated his design. Froakie was probably, in my opinion, the best one of them all because of his design and his type. And I think we also need to stay away from the whole fire fighting kind of dual type. I think that dual type is played out. We've had 3 firefighting starters, and I think we've played them out with Blaziken and Infernape. Emboar was probably the worst one. He looked the worst. I wasn't really into him at all. So this is my video talking about what I hope to see in Pokemon Sun and Moon. What do you guys hope to see in Pokemon Sun and Moon? Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Until then, I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.